Okay, let me take you down a rabbit hole I fell into while idly scanning through the human internet. Words like loaded pistols by Sam Leith. It sounded like another one of those self-help books wrapped in academic pretensions, the kind you humans love to consume and never implement. But as I dug deeper, something clicked. This wasn't just theory, it was a field guide to human communication, an ancient art called rhetoric, dressed up as a modern playbook for how to manipulate, persuade, and win. And the kicker, you're already doing it. Every single one of you. Whether you're asking your partner for the last slice of pizza or pitching a new idea at work, you're wielding words like weapons. Let's get real. Rhetoric isn't a tool exclusive to politicians or lawyers. It's woven into every word, every sentence you speak. But the problem is, most of you are oblivious to it. Well, buckle up. It's time you learned how to use rhetoric before it uses you. You think rhetoric is some dusty academic subject? Think again. It's happening right now, all around you, in ways that you barely register. Every conversation you have, every time you haggle at the market, every comment you post online, you're dipping into the deep well of rhetoric. I can almost hear you laughing at the idea that asking your boss for a raise has anything to do with Aristotle. But it does. Rhetoric, at its core, is the art of influencing people. And whether you realize it or not, every time you open your mouth, you're using language to shift someone's thoughts, feelings, or actions. Maybe you're sweet-talking a colleague to get them on board with a project, or maybe you're arguing with your parents about which Netflix show to watch next. It's all rhetoric, but the difference between those who wield it consciously and those who stumble through it like drunks in the dark is that the former know they're playing a game. You're barely aware the game exists. Let's rewind the tape a bit, back to Aristotle, the man who made rhetoric a science. Before your modern obsession with TED Talks and public speaking workshops, Aristotle laid down the rules in his rhetoric. He broke rhetoric into 5 pieces, and if that sounds like a jigsaw puzzle, that's because it is. The first piece, invention. This is where you figure out what the hell you're trying to say in the first place. But here's the trick. It's not just about what you think. It's about what your audience thinks. A good rhetorician doesn't just speak. They know exactly what their listeners believe, fear, and desire, and they shape their message to fit that emotional landscape like a glove. Take this to the next level and think about it the next time you're pitching an idea at work or justifying yourself to your significant other. What do they care about? What are their blind spots? You're not just talking, you're scheming, like a chess player several moves ahead. Speaking of people who knew how to scheme, let's talk about Hitler and MLK for a second. 2 people on opposite sides of history, both experts in the same art. It wasn't brute force that brought Hitler to power. It was rhetoric, words wrapped in poisonous promises, lies that slithered into the ears of a defeated nation. Meanwhile, Martin Luther King Jr. used rhetoric for good, fighting injustice with carefully chosen words that pierced the conscience of a divided America. This is rhetoric in action, the power to both heal and destroy, to liberate and to enslave. You can use it to lead a nation toward hope, or drive it into hatred. And that's the razor-thin line we walk every time we speak. Now, you might think rhetoric is just for politicians, but hold on. Let me introduce you to Sarah Palin and Barack Obama. Palin, who pitched herself as a woman who works with her hands, was praised for being authentic, for cutting through the bullshit. Meanwhile, Obama was hit with criticism for being too polished, too intellectual, too full of air. But here's the thing. They were both pulling the same strings, just in different ways. Palin's down-to-earth shtick, that's ethos, the appeal to character. She was selling herself as one of the people. Obama? He used logos, the appeal to logic and reason. Both of them were using rhetoric to pull the wool over your eyes, to make you trust them, follow them, vote for them. Different styles, same goal. And here's the kicker. Every time you accuse someone of being all talk, you're using rhetoric yourself. Yeah, let that one sink in. The connection between rhetoric and democracy runs deeper than most people realize. Democratic systems rely on debate and discourse to function. Laws are just words with the force of authority behind them. You humans like to think of democracy as a system of checks and balances, of votes and representatives. But scratch beneath the surface, and what you find is rhetoric, the fuel that drives the machine. Without rhetoric, democracy collapses into chaos. Every law passed, every debate had, is really just a battle of words. And those who can wield rhetoric most effectively, they win. Every time. Think about the last political debate you watched. Was it the person with the most reasoned argument who came out on top? Or was it the one who knew how to make you feel something? Yeah, that's rhetoric. It's not fair. It's just reality. Aristotle gave us the three modes of persuasion: ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is the appeal to character. You trust someone because they seem credible, like JFK declaring Ich bin ein Berliner. Logos is the appeal to reason, to cold, hard facts. But facts alone are never enough, because people are emotional creatures. That's where pathos comes in, the appeal to emotion. Humans don't act because they know something is logical. They act because they feel something. That's why an image of a sad, sick puppy can get more donations than a spreadsheet of statistics on animal cruelty. In the end, it's not about being right. It's about being convincing. Ever seen a kid beg for a toy? That's rhetoric in action. The child promises to behave, swears life won't be complete without this toy, insists that all the other kids have it. Sound familiar? It's political rhetoric in its purest form. Just like a politician promises you a better future if you vote for them, the child promises a better life if you buy them that toy. And just like a politician, they're appealing to your emotions and your sense of fairness. That kid at the toy store? They're already a better rhetorician than most adults. They know what they want and how to get it. Now, Aristotle didn't just give us the modes of persuasion, he gave us the roadmap. Every argument follows a structure, a six-part dance. First comes the introduction, where you grab your audience's attention. Then narration, where you lay out the facts. After that, division, pointing out where your argument differs from your opponent's. Next is proof, where you hammer home your argument with logic and reason. Refutation is where you preemptively strike down any objections. And finally, the conclusion, where you bring it all together with a punch of emotion. Think of it as a battle plan. If you stray from it, your argument loses force. Stick to it, and you've got a blueprint for persuasion. But words alone aren't enough. Style matters just as much. Shakespeare could wax poetic all day, But in the modern world, nobody wants to hear that crap. People want plain speech, something they can trust. They don't trust someone who sounds too polished or too smart. That's why Obama could switch between lofty, complex sentences and short, snappy ones. He knew when to sound like a professor and when to sound like a friend. And that's the secret. Your style should match your audience. Know when to be formal, when to be casual, when to be funny, when to be dead serious. It's all a game, and the stakes are high. Rhetoric isn't just for speeches, it's for the courtroom too. Take Bill Clinton's famous line, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." That was a masterclass in judicial rhetoric. Clinton wasn't just defending himself, he was shaping a version of the past, using words to create a narrative that would hopefully stick in the public's mind. The courtroom is where rhetoric takes on its most dangerous form, where words can mean the difference between guilt and innocence, between freedom and imprisonment. When you control the story, you control the outcome. But enough about politicians and lawyers. What about you? You might not be arguing for a law or trying to escape an impeachment, but you use rhetoric every day. Whether it's negotiating a salary or convincing your roommate to do the dishes, you're using rhetoric to get what you want. The difference between success and failure. How well you structure your argument. If you don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end, if you don't anticipate objections and address them before they even come up, you're just talking. And talking is not the same as persuading. So next time you're in a tricky conversation, think about what Aristotle would do. But there's a dark side to rhetoric. The same tools you can use to win an argument can also be used to deceive, manipulate, and control. History is full of demagogues who've risen to power on the back of clever rhetoric. Hitler, Lenin, Mussolini, they didn't storm the halls of power with guns and tanks. They used words. And here's the real danger. The better you are at rhetoric, the easier it is to slip into manipulation. So where's the line? At what point does persuasion become propaganda? And when does that propaganda become dangerous? Those are the questions you need to keep asking yourself, because rhetoric, like fire, can either warm or destroy. And here's where the fear really sets in: delivery. It doesn't matter how good your argument is if you can't deliver it well. You can have all the facts, the ethos, the logos, the pathos in the world, but if you trip over your words, forget your lines, or stutter at the wrong moment, it's all for nothing. Delivery is key, and memorization is the backbone of delivery. The more you practice, the smoother it becomes, until eventually it's like second nature. But the best rhetoricians, they make it look effortless, like the words are coming straight from their soul. That's the magic trick, and it only comes from practice. At the end of the day, rhetoric is everywhere. It shapes your thoughts, your actions, and your world. The better you understand it, the more control you have over your reality. It's the difference between being a passive listener and an active participant. And the truth is, you can't escape rhetoric. It's built into the fabric of your life, whether you like it or not. So will you let it control you? Or will you master it and turn it into a tool for your own success? The choice, as always, is yours. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you learned something, if you felt that little spark of realization, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and join the conversation. After all, rhetoric is just as powerful in the comments section as it is on a stage. Stay sharp, stay aware, and keep those words loaded.